Now, I want to bring to your attention an issue that every salesman, every sales manager, every sales director, in fact, every company has had with anybody in sales. And that is that there is a direct correlation between the experience of a salesperson and the amount of prejudging that will take place because of it. That is a true fact. And when you see what I've extracted from the archives to reinforce this message, you'll understand why I've preempted it with this video. But you'll also understand that I've given you a number of solutions, 6 in fact, that should change the way that you sell and prejudge forever. And when you do that, your selling will move forward in leaps and bounds. Now, here's something I bet you don't want to hear, or you don't want to hear again, or you don't want to be reminded of again, because there is a direct correlation between experience and the levels of prejudging that salespeople can engage themselves in. And the fact is, the more experienced the salesperson, the greater the tendency to prejudge others and their prospects. Okay, we agree on that. So how do you minimize this? Well, first up, don't put labels on people, and don't assume you know anything if you haven't asked any questions first. Because if you go down this track, chances are you'll be regretting what you've done at a latter stage. And the other thing is, don't assume your sales prospects and customers all have identical needs or buy for exactly the same reasons. And in a lot of cases, we assume that they buy to save money and to save time. And that's usually one of the biggest mistakes salespeople make. So allow me to remind you, when you prejudge, you will judge prematurely without all of the facts. And when you do that, chances are you will get it wrong. But the worst part is, if you get it wrong within the actual selling process, there's no retraction. You've got it wrong, you know it, the prospect knows it, and you're dead as far as making the sale. And that is fact. Now, how often have you prejudged even before you got into the selling presentation? Well, to be truthful, I've done it, and I've done it often over the years, but I do it far less now. But remember, I've been in sales now for more than 56 years, but as far as I'm concerned, you don't have to wait for 56 years to cut back on your prejudging, because there's a simple way you can do that, and starting now, all you have to do is to start asking questions. Once you start asking questions, then you won't get things wrong, you won't prejudge. And the one thing that I've said year after year after year is that every time you prejudge, you will always misjudge. And that's something that you should remember every time you try and prejudge. Because prejudging is nothing more than jumping to conclusions. And when you jump to conclusions, you know you're not going to get it right very often. So rather than assuming that all of your customers are similar, look for the differences in every one of your customers. As you treat them differently, you'll find that they'll warm to you and you'll sell a lot more. Now, I've got a surprise for you at the end of this module, and that is, I'll explain to you why there's guitars on a regular basis throughout my presentations and my teachings. And you'll be surprised with the story I tell you. Now, this is such a serious issue, and the issue is that you should always avoid being judgmental. Now, the best super sellers I know never prejudge. They never prejudge any situation. They never prejudge a prospect, and they never prejudge someone's intentions. Because once you start doing that, you can get so far off the mark and turn the prospect off so badly, you may not get a chance to have a second try. So when we judge or when we prejudge, mostly we do that to try and help others make behavioral changes. Now, that doesn't work too well either, because I had two wives that tried to change my behavior, and guess what? It's still the same decades later. So remember, always make sure that you make your judgments based on facts. And the only way you can do that is there are public facts that you can draw on, but ask questions so that you can base what the prospect wants you to base your judgments on. And the second point is we need to trust ourselves, because when we trust ourselves and do the right thing by our prospects, we sell. But remember, we sell because we have the skills, we have the knowledge. And when we trust ourselves to provide solutions for the prospect, which are the best solutions for them, we create a win-win scenario. And what most salespeople don't realize, what the prospects have been waiting for, is somebody that they can trust, that provides them with the things that they've been wanting. That trust that you have with your prospect is an earned trust. Never forget that. But remember, you only achieve that by first trusting in yourself. Now, the third point is a simple one. Take the pressure off. Learn to accept whatever happens in your life. Things happen. Often things happen which are out of our control. So learn from the outcome and simply get over it. And the minute you do that, you will take the pressure off. The fourth point is be patient. Now, I'm not aware if patience can be taught, because I've never been able to teach that to anybody. But what I am aware of are the times of impatience when it comes to making a sales presentation. Now, customers and colleagues can smell or they can sense impatience in anybody. So once you feel impatience coming into the presentation or into your thoughts, simply back off making decisions, because with impatience, your prospects feel being pushed. That's right. And if they feel like they're being pushed into a sale, they won't buy. It's that simple. So patience is one virtue which is really important in any selling process by the salesperson. The fifth point is be in the moment. Now, to a lot of people, that may be a surprising comment, but it's factual, because the best salespeople I know are good at being in the moment. And how do you get to be in the moment? Well, that's simple. You keep focusing on the prospect, and you keep your focus and energy with the prospect in that moment. And when you are in the moment, you'll end up selling with terrific outcomes, and you won't lose focus or the presence that you need, because you always will sell better when you're in the moment. The sixth point is possibly one we don't want to hear, and that message is let it go. Now, so many of us find it so hard to let things go, especially things that have hurt or cost us dearly. And in situations, I also find it hard to let go as well, but it has to be done, because if you don't, that situation will become a distraction, and any distraction will stop you from performing at your top level. Now, it might be tough at the time to let things go, but in life, We all have choices, and letting things go is also a choice we need to make from time to time. But one thing I will say, it doesn't mean forgetting things. You can let things go. You can forgive people for what they've done, but use that memory of it to make sure that you can avoid that situation in the future. Because if you don't let go, the consequences will never be what you want them to be. So simply let it go. Now, that guitar that I featured in the archived video right at the beginning of this presentation is a Di Giorgio. It's a very rare classical guitar, and it was made in 1979 in Brazil. Now, its model is a Santana C1. Now, to the best of my recollection, on the internet, there have only been 4 Santana C1s for sale over the past 10 years. And when I look at the past 5 years, there's been one for sale in Australia and one in the USA. Now, the reason why I know there's one for sale in Australia over that period of time is the same person took every venue that he possibly could to sell this guitar. And when I finally got to meet with him, I asked him why he was selling it. He said, "I simply need the money. That's why I'm letting you have it at a fraction of what it's worth." And I smiled and agreed with him, didn't try to negotiate the price any further because I thought it was a bargain anyway. But the important thing here, he also told me that he imported that guitar from England. So the one I have in my possession here in Australia would probably be the only one that ever came to Australia because, to the best of my knowledge, none have been imported into this country. And I'll finish with this. The experts tell me that I have the largest personal vintage collection of guitars in Australia by far. And I'm proud of that. And I've been collecting guitars now for a good many years, and the guitars that I have in my possession are mainly quite rare, and some are exclusive to the point they're the one-offs that I bought because I was able to. So I'll keep on sharing different instruments with you throughout the 365 videos that I'm making for this series, and you'll be surprised with what I share along the way.